So tell us, what is steampunk jazz and that is going to be played at the concert on November 7th?
The concept of steampunk in general is the fusion of Victorian steam age elements, large cogs and gears, with modern aesthetics. So clothing, artwork, music is a little less easy to just put into a box. But basically, if you think that the concept of trying to keep that steam era alive throughout the generations and constantly incorporating it into any form of art or clothing or music as time progresses, it would be the same thing with music. So trying to keep the concept of a big band alive. Back in the 30s and 40s, it was a very popular, or especially 30s, a very popular form of music. Jazz was the popular music of its time. It has since faded into kind of the background in terms of popularity on airplay and things like that. So if you could imagine that a big band was still the most popular medium coming through the ages, then bringing all the elements that are analogous to the modern time. For instance, in the case of Darcy James Argue's music, incorporating pop, hip hop, funk, electric jazz, all that kind of stuff, and using the antiquated or the Victorian era, if you want to call it, that big band, to kind of convey that message. So it's using something old and treating it as if it never faded away, but just constantly evolved and adapted the forms that were current at the time.
So describe just a little bit more on the steampunk era. What you brought up the word era, and was there some movement in terms of jazz music in that specific time?
No, I think that, well, the steampunk era is now. I mean, we didn't even see the term steampunk until 1987. But if you can think of H.G. Wells, you can think of like the Tim Burton Batman movies, that just larger than life, really just crazy looking machines set in the middle of society. That's kind of what a lot of people refer to as steampunk. It was a term that was coined much later. But the movie Wild Wild West with Will Smith is my favorite example of steampunk. All those crazy machines that they were using on the train when they were battling one another. That's true steampunk in its rarest, or its purest form, I should say. Musically, I think Darcy James Argue kind of coined the term, or applied that term to his music himself. It's a very sophisticated type of big band music. It's not going to be dance music. It's not your grandfather's big band. But it is a lot of fun to play, and I think the audience will be challenged and really enjoy hearing this fusion of all these modern sounds and using that traditional 16-piece big band as the medium to bring it forward.
And that is a great segue. What can the audience expect to hear on November 7th?
Okay, one thing they're going to hear is an instrument called the cajon. The cajon is a percussion instrument. It's basically a big box that's got a hollow back with little snares in it, and that will be amplified with effects, and that is used throughout a couple of the pieces. It's a very interesting sound to add, and in some cases there's no drum set at all. It's just the cajon with the big band. So again, some new sounds, of course. Typical of GSO Jazz, we'll be doing a lot of doubling in the saxophone, so we'll have flutes and clarinets and alto flutes and bass clarinets, and of course all the saxophones, and the trumpets will have flugelhorns and a variety of different mutes. So again, it's just going to be a lot of different sounds and colors, provided with screaming rock guitars and things like that. It's going to be an experience. There's one piece that's just mostly guitar with a lot of heavy effects, something that you would not expect to hear with a jazz ensemble, and then all of a sudden you couple that with flutes and clarinets, next to this wailing guitar. It's just a really kind of a cool combination of things.
It does sound very cool. Is there anything that the audience should know before they come to this steampunk jazz concert?
They should know that it is not a traditional. It's not going to be Duke Ellington and Count Basie and Stan Kenton. It's going to be modern big band at its finest, which is what GSO Jazz is typically known for. I try to keep this as a repertory orchestra and not a dance band or a concert band that so many other great big bands around town provide. I want something different and unique. I'm not going to say it's better, because all these bands are great, but what I really want to focus on is the newest music from the newest composers that really challenge both the players and the audience.
Absolutely. And you said there was a 16-piece band this Saturday. Any musicians we've heard of that are going to be participating?
It's all of our standard fare. Just the finest musicians that I think we can get in town, and also just great people. And I'm committed to not only having the finest players, we all have to get along, and we all have to be friends and like each other. So it's going to be great. We have great soloists, and again, I think the audience will be excited to hear some new and different colors from the group.
Absolutely. Have you done steampunk before with the GSO Jazz?
Not with GSO. KSU Jazz Ensemble 1 performed a very similar concert of Darcy James Argy's music last year.
Okay.
First concert of last year, yeah.
And what can you say with your role with GSO Jazz for the past 8
or so years?
8 or so years. What have you? We're celebrating the 65th anniversary this year. What can you tell us about your experience with GSO Jazz and seeing how this has grown through not only the neighborhoods or the close area, but throughout Atlanta?
Well, I've been fortunate to have performed with what it used to be the Cobb Symphony. For, my goodness, I was performing with the group when Steve Bias was the conductor way back in the day, and it's always been a pleasure. The musicians are absolutely top quality, and the board and the administration is what I'm really impressed with, because when we came forward to Michael Alexander and the board about doing a big band component of like I said at that time, Cobb Symphony, now Georgia Symphony, they were just immediately on board and provided all the support that we needed to get this thing off the ground, and I can't thank them enough. I mean, they make my job really, really easy, and it's, again, I think it's rare that you have that type of support and that just willingness and openness just to try something new. Let's see how it goes, and we've pretty much been selling out the theater every concert. So I'm really happy that we're doing that, and that means you must come and get tickets to come see us on November 7th. If we don't bite, it's not that scary, but it will be an evening of great music, and something I don't think most folks have heard yet.
And to play on that, you said earlier that this is not the Count Basie, this is not the Duke Ellington. If someone is new to jazz, whether it's steampunk or the classics, what would you tell them to either know or be prepared for as they start to venture into this new music or this new form of music?
Well, that's where you can kind of thank the modern digital age of being able to access so much music in a wide variety through the internet. I would say just subscribe to a jazz channel online, or on use your satellite radio and listen to the jazz channels there, where you're going to get a nice broad spectrum of and then just kind of see what moves you and touches you. I think that it's in the jazz world we can get divided where I only like dance band and I only like this and I only like small group and things like that, and you just have to find what works for you and what rings and resonates with you. The palette of jazz is extremely broad. Some people would come to the concert on the 7th and say, "Oh, that's not jazz at all because it's got electric guitar and it's got all this weird stuff. That's not jazz." But that's the beauty of what jazz is. And typically we see those big movements in smaller groups, and that's kind of where, again, that term steampunk comes into play, using a older ensemble playing modern music and taking on all the influences that are around now. So I would just say keep an open mind, and again, if you like it, great, explore more. There's lots of great modern big bands out there, and if you really resonate with Basie and Ellington, which I do as well, it's amazing music. I mean, you're not going to play an Ellington piece and say that it's out of date. It still stands to this day. It's amazing. So I would just say get online and see what you like, and then after you found what you like, go out and buy, and keep this music alive.
Absolutely. Is there anything else you'd like to add, not only about Steampunk Jazz Concert on November 7th, or just the GSO Jazz season this year?
Well, of course, this will be our big band concert. We've broken it up to have a big band concert and then a small group concert in the spring. So the date escapes me, but it is on our calendar. But please just come out and support everything that the Georgia Symphony is doing. It is an amazing organization. It has to be around 65 years later, and it just gets stronger and stronger, and I just look forward to the group growing, the entire organization growing, and providing great music for all of Atlanta and the youth program as well, getting these young students involved and molding the future of the music.